Good evening, everybody. Tom, you're up.
Yeah, oh, you got me. Can you hear me? Can I see it?
Yep, we got you.
It says we're sharing. All right, gang, we're going to go through fairness fouls, right? Technical fouls. So, really just going to touch on some things and show you a few videos, maybe a few stills of what we're talking about, and try to get you moving and grooving. And off tonight, we're also going to go through reporting, what we want to do there. So we got the agenda here, right? Technical fouls, play on mechanics, and reporting. Play on mechanics, something we probably will dive into a little bit more because I know there's great opinion on how differing opinions on how we play on, how quickly we stop, and so forth. And I think I'd like to have some assistance from my team here on their viewpoints as well, just to give you a different view on play on mechanics, because it's not tried and true, specific time limits and so forth. So here we go. Technical fouls, as we always talk about, fairness, conduct foul, crease violations, delay of games, holds, illegal offensive screen, illegal procedure, interference, offsides, stall, push, ward, withholding the ball from play, right? Those are the big hitters. There's probably a couple more that we probably don't have listed here. Knowing David, he probably got them all. Conduct foul, right? We've got a conduct foul here. You're constantly getting information given back to you about how well you're doing your job, from players, coaches, parents, custodians, the guy who cuts the lawn. But when we look at these, right, maybe you give them a pass on the first one. I think we as officials have got to start setting the tone a little bit. I don't want us to immediately go to unsportsmanlike, but if we don't turn the ball over, right, if we're getting abused by a coach, an assistant coach, or players, right, we set ourselves up for future problems in those games. So conduct foul, right? One we can use, keep in our pocket when things are starting to get out of hand. Crease violations are easy. He's in the crease, right? He stepped on the line. The line is hot, gentlemen. Make sure we remember that the line is hot. Okay, that is part of the crease. Not over that line, it's anywhere on that line or within, right? So from the outside of that 4-inch line, if it's done correctly, right? Or 2-inch line, if it's done correctly, all the way in. So we have a little bit of video here. Why didn't this start like the others did? Here we go. We'll start it again. So we're talking about an illegal hold here. This could be, we've gone through this as the training committee on whether it could be more. I've seen people call this a cross check. I've seen them, and then let it pass. What you see here individually, players definitely thrusting a little bit. His hands are wider, so I could see maybe you're using the cross and maybe going with a cross check. But this is an example from a video that we have that says we got an illegal hold here.
If I may, it looks initially as though the hands were inside the shoulders and the force of the contact drove the right hand further up the stick. And the reason this is called a hold and not a cross check, hands are inside, right? If the hands start inside, he's used more than equal pressure in that he's driven the guy backwards. Right? Hold, you get equal pressure. You drive him backwards. Now we've got something. You haven't used equal pressure. You're allowed to keep him there. Once you start pushing him the other way.
Now
that's way up high. It's also high on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't get to the neck, but it's high on the shoulder.
This is just one example of an illegal hold. A lot of times you'll see it with the long pole. He gets in on a V hold, gets nice and tight. That guy's doing an inside roll on him, uses that stick, hooks him, pulls him down to the ground. You can call that a hold as well. Those are the ones you normally see. You don't normally see these, but these have to be called just like those do. So here we have an example illegal hold. If you notice the hands, as David was talking about, they stayed in good position. It was equal pressure. You didn't have any thrust or push, right? He's just holding that guy off, not banging, banging, banging with his arms like some of our coaching fraternity is teaching players to do these days. Pop, 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 pop. Just equal movement, driving him, using his hip. Nice, clean play here. Nothing really to add to this, but just wanted to give you an example.
Just note that the home team is not wearing white as they should be.
Don't have monochrome numbers, right?
No,
Actually, they
but
are outlined
yeah,
by
they've got
green,
dark, they got dark numbers on a dark jersey. They've got the home team wearing gray instead of white. Yeah, that's a whole bunch of uniform violations going on here.
Illegal offensive screen. So, this is one I think guys are, if you talk to a couple of my brethren, they think I call this way too often. But let's look at the picture on the right. From a stick perspective, the player is good. From an arms perspective, the player is good, but his legs are way outside his body width, right? And he uses that to screen the player from playing defense on the man, right? And the one on the left, player has never set his feet. He just ran right into the other guy, right? He just made contact and ran right through it. You also have guys who use the tail end of a long pole. They might be in there, but all of a sudden they use that, they kind of chicken wing about a foot, and they're hooking the player's hip as he comes by. Or the head of the stick. They do it the same way. If a player's stick is not up and down, right, you're pretty much looking, okay, this is going to be bad if the kid doesn't roll off, right? If he makes contact, his stick is parallel to the ground, you pretty much can call that. Now, then you have to look at, and David will jump in a second, then you have to look on advantage, disadvantage, right? So summarily, if I see a stick that's parallel to the ground, automatically I'm going, all right, don't make contact, roll off. Don't make contact, roll off, right? Go ahead, Dave.
Right. So there's the whole no contact, no foul situation here. There must be contact to be an illegal screen. To Tom's point, if the stick is not inside the frame of the body, you see him sticking it out there like a turnpike, you're going, okay, we've got an illegal screen that's about to happen. Does he make contact or not? To Tom's point, does he roll off it? Does he roll around it? The other thing, you'll see a guy set up in perfect position, feet even with the shoulders, stick right on his chest. Guy runs by, didn't make contact, and then starts throw his hip out. Try and hip check him on the way by. If he makes contact, then an illegal screen.
Now, in the younger age groups, right, you got kids that are trying to set screens, right? And they may have everything in, but as soon as that kid gets close to them, right, they're leaning in so they can absorb the hit, right? We have to be aware, right, that you're going to have that, right? They're leaning towards that guy because they know they're going to get popped because that kid's not moving, right? So is that really movement or is that protection? So we've got to be somewhat cognizant of what the kid's trying to do. So these can be tough, especially when there's 4 or 5 guys running in that, triangle from the goal out to the top of the box. There's a lot of movement in there. Just be aware of the advantage, disadvantage part of it. And, get them right. They can be very impactful, especially on a drive like this. Go ahead.
And this is something you want to be cataloging calls so you're consistent with your crew. Follow your R. You should be talking about this in the pregame. But if someone calls it early, then you have to be consistent for the rest of the game. And if somebody got it wrong, then you need to talk between quarters or whatever. But the crew needs to be consistent.
So this is a different type of holding that should have been up there a little bit before. This is pretty much of a long clip, but I kind of liked it because you see this a lot and it never gets called. Sometimes you see it as a player's driving up the field. The defenseman gets a stick in there for a good poke check, a legal check, and all of a sudden he can't get that stick out, right? If you watch the guy in the crease area in red, in high crease, Right now, he's got that defenseman's stick hooked and he just lifted his hand over. The defenseman couldn't slide because once he drops his stick, he's not an active player, right? So he's stuck there. He can't slide to that drive. So let's watch it again. And you're looking right about here. This guy right here. There he goes. He lifted his hands over. Now he's hooked that defenseman's stick. Now he's walking around 5 yards, just holding that stick there. So little things that are done and cheated on, and coaches are teaching these players to do that definitely are impactful, especially in a slide package like that, right? If you understand the game, most times they're not going adjacent from a wide set like that. That's probably the primary slide guy, the guy right in the middle. So, Wayne, you want to add
That's why you have to
anything
get
to
away
that?
with it.
And that's a great call by that official because he wasn't ball watching. So, if you got 3 officials, someone needs to catch that. That's a great call.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that when you gotta have off-ball officiating. If you're watching the ball, all 3 guys are watching the ball, you're gonna miss that. So someone's gotta stay in your zone and look off ball. When you're not on ball, you gotta look off ball, look for all the crap that's going on.
We get past this one? Come on. I guess not. All right. Can't move.
Somewhere other than on the
There we
video.
go. Yep, it's somewhere other than that. All right, illegal procedure. Your catch-all, your kitchen sink, as Dave likes to call it, which is now going to be used for our restarts, right, David?
Yep,
You want to
instead of
reiterate that?
right. So if we have a restart where the defender fails to yield 5 yards or fails to yield a path to the goal in the last several years, we're going to restart anyway. But if the defender actually attempts to play without generating a 5-yard separation and yielding a path to the goal, we would signal that we'd throw a flag and call delay a game. This year, we are going to still throw the flag, but when we report that foul, it's going to be an illegal procedure, not a delay a game, because the game, in fact, was not delayed. So they have retitled the same foul, although delay of game is an example of illegal procedure. They want to just be clear that it's a procedure issue. The game wasn't delayed. It was just failure to follow procedure for the restart. So they're just calling it an illegal procedure this year.
So a lot of times you'll get an illegal procedure call, guys that are newer, that are learning, you may have a face-up call. It may be a withhold, it may be a hold, right? But you really don't know which one you're going to call. You can call a procedure.
Yeah.
Right. Call a procedure there and you point the other way and you go from there. That's why it's kind of your kitchen sink. Don't, if the coach asks you later, say, yeah, coach was holding, I just phased out on the call, whatever, on the sign. But either way, it went the right way and you're good to go. So. Interference. There's another interference call. I don't know, you may call this different ways, but in this instance, they call this interference. Watch by the 10-yard line in a few seconds. Well, the 5-yard line, right? We can watch that again. So you're down here.
You have 2 choices there.
Yeah, you have 2 choices there. So let's elaborate on those. Anybody? My training committee?
Sure. Well, I'll
You
start.
can call that interference for sure.
Right. So the question is, when you see the contact, do you know whether or not the ball's been picked up or not? So if the ball's still loose, it can't be an illegal offensive screen because nobody has possession for there to be an offensive screen. But in this case, the contact occurs more than 5 yards away from the ball. So body contact more than 5 yards away from the ball is going to be an interference call if it's not excessively violent. So they went with interference on this one because of the distance from the ball. And the official who called it likely was on the far side of the field and far enough away that it was watching the contact and not whether the ball was picked up the half second before the contact occurred. But because the
I'm gonna
ball, in
run this-
fact, was picked up, because the ball was picked up before the contact, you could also call it an illegal screen in this instance. Generally, interference is going to be a defensive foul. The defender is going to interfere.
It froze. Interfere with the free movement of a player, grab your jersey, something to that effect. So if there's running cuts through the crease area, maybe Dave, I don't know what's happened with Dave, but that's not good because he's the owner of the Zoom. So if he reboots, we're in trouble. I'm going to show this again because I want you guys to look, newer guys, but I want you to watch how the official gets involved in the play and moves out of the play, because we will talk about this later on, you know, the lighthousing and so forth. He does a really good job of getting out of the way of the play. So in front of him, gets a little below, comes back at him. Right? A lot of guys might go below and try to open up high, and but mechanically that would be the right movement to do. Sometimes you can't do it, but you know, I was impressed with his speed and agility. Kind of looked like Wayne out there, how he moves.
Almost.
All right, we got another call for interference here. Right, here's what David was talking about. Mostly you'll have something like this. Guys trying to cut, defenders just, in this case, not allowing it at all, right? Theoretically, you might be able to call, depending on how this check started, right? You may be able to call something else. A little bit more timely or time sensitive, time important, whatever. But the ball's up here. You've got number 6 down on the left here, who's trying to cut through. It looks like cut down and away, and that defender is not allowing any movement at all. So those are usually easy ones. It's a quick turnover, restart. White takes the ball, they go the other way. Offsides, always fun to call these, right? We're counting forward. Remember, we're always counting forward. Although every guy who knows 2 rules, they know ward and they know offside, is sitting in the stands, and then he's got, you know, half a dozen people sitting around him. Well, he knows, he played in college 35 years ago, so he knows the rules. But that's not the case, right? Make sure we're counting forward, always counting forward. If you know, don't be changing. If you need it to make it visible, put your finger up like you're counting, right? If you're getting a lot of heat, I always throw a finger up every once in a while. Just say, yeah, I'm counting. No, they're all right there. But in this case, you've got 1 down by GLE. You got 2 right in front of you here, middle of the page. 1 on the far side at about 10 to 12 yards up. You got 1, looks like he's coming from the box or coming into the zone. You got 1 about 5 yards in, and then now you got another one about 3. There's 7 white jerseys on that side of the field. We obviously have an issue. Right? Blow the whistle. Doesn't have to be super fast. I see guys do this way too often. They blow the whistle and they point the other way, and they never put their 2 hands down on their hips to let anybody know what's going on. Your trail may not even know because he's got, or your lead may not even know because he's got ball, right? He's looking at the ball. He's not counting numbers. That's your job as trail. So make sure your partners know what's going on so the restart can take place. Everybody knows what's going on. We don't have to start super fast. And I don't even care if it's even in these tournaments that run the 22-minute halves and all this other stuff. They're get started. You know what? That 2 seconds isn't going to make that much of a difference, or 4 seconds or 5 seconds. Give your teammates, your crew, remember, take care of your crew, opportunity to recognize what you're doing, where we're going, why it was, and they can get reset and move the other way. So this is one of those ones that you don't have to rush. Just make sure you got it done. You can always call it a little bit late, right? If you're doing your count. Wayne, got
count
anything, Mike?
twice. Yeah, I would
Huh?
say count twice. You're gonna have a coach screaming, "They're offsides, they're offsides," and sometimes you count six, and you're like, "Shit, I only got six," and you count again, and you're like, "Oh, there's the seventh." So don't feel pressure just because their coach is screaming offsides. You got to make sure you count seven before you throw your flag or turn it over.
Let's remember that if you do call offside, Scott Davey wants me to remind everybody, you award the ball where the ball is when we blow the whistle. It's not a free clear, no matter how many times the coach asks for it. You come in as trail, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, there's 7 offensive players. You blow the whistle and the ball's at X. Well, the defense gets the ball at X. They don't get it all the way back up in midfield. It's where the ball was when you blew the whistle. Thank you, Scott. Good point.
So, and then the other thing, sometimes if you're coming up trail and you see a kid running off the field, I count him as 1. And then if I keep going, and I got 6 after the kid came off the field, there was 7 on the field. Now there's only 6 because I counted and then 1 ran off. So if the coach is yelling, there's only 6. Yeah, you're right, coach. But there was 1 that ran off the field. He was my first in the count, but he made the 7th guy on the offensive side.
That's a great point. And it helps if you make sure you get that kid's number that ran off the field so you can sound definitive.
Right.
Stall warnings. We've talked about these before, right? Stall, right? Make sure you're communicating. Your R should be. Go ahead. Somebody say something?
I think someone sneezed.
Stall warnings should be talked about in your pregame. If you're the R, make sure that your partners understand. If you get in a situation late in the game, make sure you reiterate that, right? How we're going to take care of it, what we're going to do, right? Who, and we make the call together, right?
Remember, a stall warning is not a stall. It's the team has been warned to keep the ball in the box. If they then take the ball out of the box, that's when it becomes a stalling. And we use the same signal as we would use for delay a game, and say stall, and go the other way. You can say delay a game, but if you go, how is it delay a game? It's same signal, means the same thing. But if we are clear and say it was a stall because the ball left the box, go the other way.
And if you have
stall, go ahead.
If you have a 3-minute or 2-minute non-releasable penalty and that team gets the ball on offense and they're trying to kill that 2 or 3 minutes just by throwing the ball around, you can put a stall on them even if they're man down, if and when you decide to do that.
Absolutely correct. Rule 6.10.1, situation A.
I can't help it.
Just remember, each team in possession of the ball has an obligation to attack the goal. If you put a stall on at any point in the game other than the last 2 minutes, what ends the stall is a shot taken from above the goal line extended, it hits the goalie, the goalkeeper's equipment, or a pipe, a turnover, or a goal. Stall warning is off. You go like this. Play continues.
When calling a stall warning, right? When you're gonna say keep it in. I've seen guys do this. The kid takes 1 step into the box. He's got his right foot in it. The left foot's not even in the box yet. Defender's coming out to play him, and they go keep it in. You've just put that kid in a bad position, right? What can he do here other than get either mauled and pushed out, right? Or then he steps out or he loses the ball, whatever. So you're setting that up for failure. You're definitely going to hear it. If you're going to put it on when they're behind the goal. They're in the alley, but not in. Huh?
Or they're well outside the box.
Right. And, then you can go into your 10-second count to get them into the box, right? Right? You can tell, get it in, keep it in, and we put the stall warning on Now they know they've got 10 seconds to get it in. You can count, you can verbalize too. But you set yourself up for a lot of grief when you set a kid up for failure on an immediate call on a stall, right? Because once you call it, the rules are the rules, right? He steps or he steps on the line even, you're in trouble. So
We had a situation last year with the automatic stall in the last 2 minutes. Kid crosses midfield in possession of the ball. The crew rightly tells him to get it in. The kid runs towards the box and stops with 1 foot in the box and 1 foot out of the box. So by touching in the box, he's satisfied to get it in, but now he has an obligation to keep it in, but 1 foot's outside the box. But he's come to a complete stop with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And so both, clearly the defensive team is screaming, it's a stall. The offensive team is like, how could it be a stall? Well, the answer to me is whichever foot he picks up first. Right, so if he picks up the foot that is outside the box and continues into the box,
He's
great.
good.
But if he basically plants with the foot that's in the box and picks that up, so the only thing out is touching the ground is outside the box, then yeah, I would call him for a stall in that situation. But we did actually had that come up in a game last year. It's one of those 1 in 400 games that we did last year. It happened once, but if you can prepare for it mentally, then you know what to do in this situation.
the push. I am pretty sure that this player is possessing the ball, so this would be a call. But if he's not possessing the ball, right? Because goalie's set, the only reason I say that is goalie's setting up for a shot, right? So this would be a 30-second. If the ball is loose,
Well, which
Yeah,
occurred
you know-
first, the push or the crease violation?
All right.
well, he's not in the crease yet. Because
Yeah, he
is.
white line.
Yeah, he is.
No, that's red line.
Oh,
Red line.
Oh,
is
it's the wrong line,
soccer
isn't it?
Oh,
My bad.
Me too.
I looked
No,
at
wait a
this as well. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
he's
okay,
not in.
my bad. Bad angle. Sorry.
Too many lines.
It can be tough on some of these fields now that the Hillsboroughs put them all in. All of these turf fields, they got 6 different colored lines out there, trying to figure out which one is the actual crease line sometimes. But yeah, in this case, this looks like just a half arc on the top of the soccer box, or it's the 12 meter or the 8 meter for the
8
girls.
meter.
Yeah.
Gilman Loyola.
So where are we at? Turnover, 30 seconds, right? Loose ball pushes. Okay. You're looking, and I got into this issue last year. My partner was very quick at his whistle, and I was trying to figure out why, because I thought that the offensive player had an advantage to get the ball and go. We ended up restarting and everything else. Then I totally blew the whole thing, but we won't go into that until later. David can reiterate the rule and everything else that got bandied about there. But I want to talk about when we talk about on the play on later on, the speed of the whistle, right? Is it really an advantage by the offensive player? And what's gained by continuing to do this, right? If the kid's going to be, again, destined for failure, he's running, he's got a sliding defenseman coming at him. Even if he picks up the ball, right? He's going to get blown up. You may have something else, being proactive in your officiating. Maybe you have a quick whistle. You just do the restart and we play again. So, but we'll talk on the play on stuff later on.
So,
Right.
oh, all right.
Go ahead. We
No,
go back.
I'll wait till later on. We talk about play on because I had a comment about play on. Well, I'll wait.
Yeah. So Ward, right? Dave could probably give you the verse of this, right? We understand the Ward, right? Now, the Ward has changed numerous times over the years, right? What is a Ward? What's not a Ward? What's now back to being a good bull dodge? What's not a good bull dodge, right? But using that one, easy ones are using that free arm to, let's say, guide the defender or his stick, right? Is an easy Ward to call. It's a quick turnover, get a reset, make sure everybody knows what's going on, right? And then off you go. But Wards are one thing that everybody should kind of look over every year just to make sure you got it clear in your head. There's always a little tweak here and there, how it's done and how it's not done. Dave, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. So Tom was quick to point out that I was going to cite the rule there. It's 611. But the free arm's the easy one. Player may not use his free arm to redirect his opponent's body or stick. Easy. What if the player has both hands on his cross? Well, if a player has both hands on his cross, he can use his arm to redirect his opponent's stick legally. He may not redirect his opponent's body. So at the high school and youth levels, if the offensive player initiates contact with a defender's body, it's going to be a ward. There is no more bull dodge permitted at high school or at youth. So if the offensive player initiates the contact, that's not to say if the defender is standing there and in a good position and playing good defense and it's got himself into harm's way. But if they're standing a yard apart and the offensive player just runs into him, we've got a ward. If he runs him over, we might have unnecessary roughness, assuming the player has two hands on a stick. So moving the stick is good, moving the body is bad if both hands are on the cross.
Good way to put it. Yeah, where's my cursor? There we go. All right, withholding the ball from play. We all know that I've seen this happen. And we need to make sure we understand it and clarify it in our heads. Player loses a stick and the ball is still in the stick. Immediate whistle, we go the other way, withholding the ball from play, right? Player's stick falls, turns over, and is laying on top of the ball is the same call. I've actually seen that not get called correctly. So those are easy. You can have a withhold face off, kid clamping and just standing there and holding it. You can call withhold from there. You got the same issue. Maybe you may want to call it defensive zone. Defenseman clamps the ball and is just like holding it until he can get it to somebody he wants to get it to. An offensive player is clamping the ball instead of trying to play it, meaning picking it up and making a lacrosse move. You may want to call it as well. Situationally, the easy one is the ball's stuck in the cross or the cross is covering the ball. The others get a little ticky-tack, but depending on the temperament of the game, where it's going, if there's 10 seconds left in the game and all the guy's doing is holding the ball there, trying to eat as much, call it, give it to the other team and move on. Anybody else?
Yeah, can you go back one screen?
I can try. I
Or
don't think
I can
so.
talk about it too. But
Yeah.
on the warding, sometimes the offensive player and the defensive player get hooked up together, and the offensive player will take his arm and raise it in the air and kind of do a backwards half circle, trying to get his arm free. And everyone on the other side is screaming for a ward. That's not a ward. He was trying to get his arm free. So just recognize when an offensive player is just trying to get his arm free, but he's not warding. It looks like a warding motion, but it's not.
And similarly, you'll get one where the defender pokes through and lifts that guy's front arm. And you get the same call from the parents on the other side, on the sideline. That's a ward. It's not a ward.
No, just scream out, you're an idiot.
The other thing in the ward, you might be the closest official and the kid's warding, but you can't see the other side of his body. So I tell my crew, if you see a ward that's in front of me, call it, because sometimes I'm just screened by the kid's body. So if you're on the other side of the player and you have a better view of it, call it if you see it. If you work with me, it doesn't bother me. I might have just got screened by the kid's body.
And that's why pre-games are so important. Those are the discussion items before the game. And even on your dead ball situations where you have guys get together. Play on mechanics. So, easy ones. I'm not sure, this guy actually in the left picture. Well, I guess that is a flag down, that's why David's got the flag there. And we've got a loose ball push.
All's in the burgundy used jersey player's stick.
Yeah, I could see it, it's in here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's down there, yep.
With a sum on it. It looks like his thumb's almost on it.
Well, almost, but it's outside the
Yeah, he's
stick
all
head,
right.
it looks like.
Don't be that good.
Or be really sure.
Difference between a flag down and a play on. Now, David, what would you be thinking on a call here? We're gonna hold?
On the left?
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely have a hold here.
so this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where the defenseman gets in underneath the arm.
Or
and
if
he's
the arm's up in
rolling
the
that
air,
player.
right? And he's
Yep.
pulling him down. Right? That's hardly an equal pressure situation. He's got him under the arm and he's flipping him over. He's about to bend him in half.
And again, loose ball push, contact from behind. Hands are close together, so he's not using the stick, he's using his hands. The advantage is gained by driving, probably the ball's probably close to his feet, and he's driving him over the ball. Right? Right, you can have a push without the kid hitting the ground. You understand that, guys, right? Make sure you understand that you can have a push without a guy landing on the ground, right? Was it a disadvantage caused by that action by the defensive player that did not allow that player to play the ball? If it's a clean one, yeah, but if it's big numbers as opposed to little numbers and he's making contact with the big numbers and drives that guy past the ball, clearly a push. Right, well, yeah, this is the chicken and egg situation, right? Did he have possession before? Was he making a lacrosse move when he got hit? Or was he not? But in this case, we've got a play on push based on these little slides we have here. Because it's a loose ball, we've got a play on. Now, you may want to call the whistle quickly here, right? What advantage is going to be gained? This guy's on the ground, very, very hard for them to actually make a lacrosse play from the ground. But
Right. Unless his teammate's right there to pick it up.
right, obviously, you can't tell in that picture enough. But can he do something if he picks it up? This is where we're talking about. When you're looking at the play, you're trying to make that decision real quick. So the play that happened to me, kid came down, was isoing from the top of the box, got a check, but kept running, and the ball was rolling towards the crease area. Now, my partner, who was the trail, anticipated possible action from the defender that might not have been beneficial to the guy running to pick up the ground ball, head down, so forth, so on, blew the whistle real quickly. I was looking at it from lead position up the field and thought that he had plenty of time to pick up the ball and so forth. Communication between the team, crew, right? Our team would have been good, but this is what you're trying to make a determination on. If it's in the alley and the ball's going down towards the end line and it's in the alley and he's got a clear run to it, yeah, you let that one go. If it's in the middle of the field, it's in that triangle that I was talking about from the goal out to the top of the box, probably something bad's going to happen. And you may want to blow it quickly, just restart outside in the alley and let's play ball. So
Before you move on,
anything
just
else?
remember, just before you move on, if you're the one who has called the play on, you're the one who should kill the play on generally. So if your partner's called to play on, probably, unless you've got some different foul somewhere else, you probably should not be the one blowing the whistle. Let your partner who's called the play on make the determination for how long that play on should go. They saw the foul, they probably have the best look as to whether there's an advantage to be gained or not.
And to end the play on, I'll put my hand up and yell play on. And then when they gain possession and keep their advantage, then I point. And if it's white, then I just say white. Put my hand down, point in the direction they're going and say white. I hear some people say play on off, but I like to use the color and point the direction of where they're going to signal it's off. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to add on that or what they do.
Well, that is the proper mechanic.
That's the right way to do it. I still say half the time I say off, half the time I say color. But off is the correct way. I'm sorry, the color, you say the color is the correct way, sorry.
Color and point.
The one thing I would add to play-ons is, it depends on the level of play, how long I let it go. So little kids, you're gonna kill right away. You have a high-level high school game like IMG or Plan or something like that. On the offensive side, I would let it go a little bit longer because those kids are quick enough. He might be able to pick it up, pass it to a teammate and get a shot. But I don't let it go too long because when the ball's on the ground, good things don't happen. But I let it go a little longer if the level of play is better.
Reporting. We all do. We all get screwed up at times, right? Sometimes this order doesn't come out the right way, right? Blue, offsides, number 12, right? 30 seconds. You know, sometimes we do it wrong. But this is, we're looking for C-note, right? We're looking for color, number, offense, time, and explanation if it's requested and or warranted, right? Usually you can get away with just the first C-not. But you know, on a bigger call, right, on a personal foul, coach wants to know why you locked them in, right? You're gonna get that explanation part, right? You're gonna go, well, he clipped him on the side of the head. He started at the chest, came up through the chin, coach. That's why we're giving him 2. And that's why we locked him in. Here's our friend. Blue. 1. Offside. 30 seconds. Explanation and timer on. Right? Say your explanation or say time. Wait a second, say timer on. Right? Guys don't get 45 seconds to get their field, you know, their team set for a 30-second call. Right? Or a 1 to 2 minute call or whatever. They want to call a timeout. It's a dead ball situation. They're more than welcome to, right? But they don't get a freebie. And in order to keep these games moving along, we don't have to do this all the time, but we have to make sure that we say it, right? If it's 20 seconds, your timer goes off and you're standing, say it's a 1 minute and the goal was scored and now you're facing man down and you call the penalty, you come in, you hit the 20-second timer and the kid's walking out on the field and the horn. Okay. You know, he's coming out to the face-off X on the horn, right? Or on your timer buzz, right? You don't want to be super good, but we definitely have to move these things along. David, anything?
That's exactly right.
So we report the foul. Make sure that people at the table are looking at you before you report the foul, so you don't have to report it 3 times. So make sure that you have eye contact with them, and they see you, and they understand what the call is. And if you have multiple fouls, take your time and explain it. So when we go back in the field, everybody understands what we're doing.
Right. And here's the benefit that, you know, you don't want to take, 45 seconds to make a call. But if you do it clear and concisely, you're taking a good 10 seconds to make sure, you've got it right. And you may say it twice, right? Especially if you're at a new field, right? You know, some of us go all over the state, we're doing state playoff games and you're on a crew and all of a sudden you've got a timing crew you've never dealt with before. So you're trying to make sure that they understand your dynamics and how things are going and whatever else. So you may say it twice, you may say it a 3rd time. Are we good? You may make eye contact with that person. Think about the amount of time that you spend actually reporting once, twice, possibly a 3rd to clarify. You've given that team another 20, 30 seconds. So setting a timer at 20 seconds after you're done, right, is not necessarily a hardship on that coach because he's had plenty of time to get his team set. He knows he's got a penalty from the first time he said it because he's listening intently. And you've already pointed towards his bench when you did it, right? So, don't be shy with those 20 seconds on guys who are dragging. Now, like I said, you don't have to be super on the button with it, but in order to keep the game moving, and we're not out there for 2 hours and 15 minutes for an 18-2 game, because the other team is trying to get, the right personnel in there. That doesn't make sense. So, tips. So here was talking about that official when David had a little faux pas with his computer or something where he froze, right? Hey, this blue chip, I don't know, is this in Orlando? I don't think so. You know what that is? That's Davenport, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That is
That is at
Davenport. Mhm. So, as you can see, our official here, way out of position, right? You know, there's a couple ways you can do this, right? But this is not the right way. So one, we don't want you to get hurt, first of all, right? So be aware of your surrounding and what's going on. Granted, there are times where you're concentrating on a goal play and all of a sudden the guy cuts from the wing behind you and you don't see him, and all of a sudden the ball comes to him, right? You got to find a way to get out of the way and still keep visual. So if that means you go below GLE and go out on an angle, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if I'm going out towards the corner and then working my way back up, that works. I lost the picture, but you understand what I'm talking about. Give clear signal so that everyone knows the call. Again, this is what we talked about earlier. You got that trail, you got that offsides call. Don't be in such a rush to get down to GLE because now you're the new lead, right? Make sure you can throw those hands down on the hips a couple of times. Make eye contact with your partners. You know, take care of your crew. Make sure they understand what's going on. At least one of them should know, and they can relay it to the new trail or the current lead, right? But that's the hard thing, right? Because especially you take off, you call it, blow the whistle, you point the other way, you take off. You may not, the coach is yelling at your trail because the trail's coming up to him and you got to restart, and he just lost the ball in the offensive zone and he doesn't know what the call is and you don't know what the call is and you're the trail. So don't put your partners in that position. Again, take care of your crew. Anybody on this? This is just mechanics. Make sure you set your feet. Don't be dancing out there, guys. Own it. When you have a call, own it. Maybe wrong, but own it, right? If you're confident, they're going to be like, well, question themselves for sure. Maybe you did see that. Take care of your crew. And that's it. Now, you guys got anything you want to add, training committee?
Come on, Doyle.
He's on mute again. He locked himself out. He put himself on mute. Anything, Wayne?
No, I thought you were thinking at the end of owning a call, being confident, clear, loud signals, let everybody know what you got, putting everyone in the stands, have a presence, and have some fun.
Steve?
Yeah, just communication with your crew is really key. So we're all on the same page, know what we're doing. You know, sometimes you know, the play on the difference between a flag and a play on is possession, not possession. And sometimes we have different points. We always have different points of view. We might have different opinions. So let's try to get on the same page. It's all right if we get one guy says, I thought it was loose, and come together, you figure it out. But just work as a team, take care of your crew, and you know, ultimately, if you do a good job, you have fun. Just, you know, make a few dollars and you have some fun. And that's what it's all about. Do a good job. Kids deserve it. Your best effort. Go out there and work hard and be in position and do your job.
So when I'm an R, and I know I've worked with David and Steve and some others on here where I've been the R, and I you know, I may have a conversation with someone on a dead ball about what did you see, and you know, okay, I didn't see it that way, but you know, I'm confident enough in my own inabilities, right, to see everything on the field. That's why I have two partners out there that I trust the judgment of the two of the guys on the crew. Now we may talk about it on a break, and we probably should. Hey, you know, I didn't kind of see it that way. Well, you know, what did you see that I didn't, right? Or what did you interpret that I didn't interpret? that really helps you grow your game. You know, we all may know the book, we all may know the mechanics, but if you're not having those interactions during the game, and I've always brought up the game that I did with Steve and Wayne, where, you know, that first call that Wayne made was, he made an interpretation that we're gonna call this a push tonight. And we're gonna restart the ball, we're gonna go the other way. So as long as we had that conversation on the next dead ball, which we did, right? We all got on the same page, play happened again, but to the other team, and I had to make the call, and the call was consistent. So each game's gonna be different, each interpretation is gonna be different, but we're there to support each other. So when I'm going back and the coach is asking me, like, coach, you had a push. And you know, usually it's, you know, the far side call that coach is questioning, right? Because he's 60 yards away, just like you are, or 55 yards away, just like you are, and he's got better eyes than everybody. Meanwhile, he's got Coke bottle glasses on, right? He can hardly hear you when you're standing next to him, but he's going to make that determination and ride your ass until he gets a chance to ride your partner's ass. Protect your crew, take care of your crew. He had a push, coach, and I'm pretty sure he's a little bit closer to it than I am. Or you, in that case, since we're just chatting, but I would usually say you. He's probably closer to it than I am. But I'll ask him about it on the dead ball, and I'll get some clarity for you. That usually shuts them up. Okay? And if you say that, do come back to them. Even if it's, hey, coach, we talked, yeah, he had a push. It was loose ball. Clean hit, but, you know, started here, went to the back, drove him out of bounds. Wasn't malicious in any way, shape, or form, just calling it a push. Okay. But don't promise something to a coach and then not deliver. You say you're going to get an answer from him on the next dead ball, make sure you come back to him and you give him something. Hey, your guy didn't change correctly, right? The other guy on the far side of the field for the offsides call was standing. It's a crowned field and he was standing on the line, coach. That's why he called offsides. So, Dave, you got anything?
No, if nobody else does, I'd like to open the floor for questions, if that's cool with you. I'm gonna
You probably can unrecord
just remember
it.
we're still, yeah, I'll stop the
are?
recording now.
You keep it on? Okay.